Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Elevation Association Experience podcast. My name is Dr. Jared Hill, and I'll be the host of the podcast today. Dr. Dan Nelson's out of town, so I have a special guest on with me. I have Ryan Passey, who is a co-founder of the Elevation Association and the Dental Legacy Foundation, and is works in our practice at Wood River Dental Care as well. And we're excited to have him on here today, Ryan. We have a really cool episode. Ryan, welcome.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here. Not gonna be quite as entertaining as Dan, but that's good.
Oh, it'll be great. It'll be awesome. We'll miss Dan for sure, but well, yeah, we've got a really cool episode planned and lined up today. Um, our theme for today, we're going to talk a little bit about my health transformation, personal health transformation as a dentist, and we're actually going to use it as a bit of a metaphor for our practice transformation. So this episode's going to be a little bit different, meaning I'm going to actually turn the time over to Ryan to be the host, and he is going to interview me and ask me a few questions regarding my bodybuilding competition. What we're going to do is we're going to draw some parallels between preparing for a bodybuilding competition and building a dental practice that thrives. So it'd be kind of a cool topic. Hopefully it's unique and different, something that nobody else is doing. We're trying to create a podcast that helps your practice become better because we're helping your life become better as a dentist. So we work with both parts equally with you as a dentist. So Ryan, I'm going to turn the time over to you and ask me some questions, and we can just have a great discussion regarding bodybuilding competitions and building a thriving practice.
I'm excited to get in and do this. We've had so many docs interested in your health journey, those that have known you for the past couple of years and have really seen the difference from kind of where you were to where you are now. And then I think other docs that just get in a room with you and can tell like that you're a disciplined person and want to learn more about this health journey that you've been on. We've had a lot of inquiries. A lot of people ask you a bunch of questions after you speak or at an event, because I think, a lot of docs want to improve their physical health as well as they want to improve the practice side of things. So I think the correlation between these two things has been great, and super excited to see the parallels between the two. And as someone who's witnessed your journey over the past couple of years, it's been great to see kind of the discipline you've had, and so I'm super excited to get in and learn a little bit more about the details, share that with everybody so they can kind of pull the curtain back and see exactly what a transformation journey look like, what it requires, those type of things. So first of all, like what inspired you to take this challenge on? What inspired you to do a bodybuilding competition?
Yeah, what's crazy, right, is I never really had aspirations to do a bodybuilding competition. But like most people, I had started a health journey several times. I want to get fit, I want to get in shape. I am embarrassed maybe to go to the beach or to the pool and take off my shirt. And it's just you have these moments where you just, man, I really want to get in shape. I know that I can do this. I was an athlete in high school or maybe college or whatever your background or history is, and you think, man, I can do this. And then you get started down this journey, and you're a really busy dentist. You work hard. You're probably raising a family. You are involved in several community activities. And so I was really frustrated with where I was at, and I wanted to take my fitness to the next level. And so what inspired me was that I could do it was that one of my good friends from dental school, Dr. Joe Holbrook, actually did a bodybuilding competition. I think it was 2017 or 2018 he did one. And Joe, I looked at that. I posted a picture online, and I thought, that is incredible because I know Joe. I know personally, and we have very similar physique. It's kind of the same height. And I thought, you look amazing, Joe. What did you do? And so I called him up, and so he kind of set this vision for me. I also had a mission companion from Utah do the same thing, and I thought, man, if these guys can do it, I can do it. I really want to get my body in the best possible shape it can be in. And so I decided if I'm going to do this, if I'm really going to get my body where it can be, I need to be all in. Like I need to decide this is what my body needs to look like. And so that's how I got inspired to do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you were saying like being in a place where maybe you're uncomfortable to take your shirt off at the beach, like where was your starting point? Like, I mean, you lifted weights fairly consistently over the past few years. But again, what was that starting point for like now that you saw Joe and kind of had that itch to start a competition, like where were you starting from? Like what describe that a little bit more for us.
Yeah, physically I was I'm 6'2", 6'3", somewhere around there, depends on who you ask and how you measure yourself. But I was weighing about I weighed about 243, and initially that was how I measured myself, I should say, is weight, and then how I looked, right? So I could look in the mirror and see what I looked like. But mentally, I was starting from a place of almost desperation, maybe like I absolutely have to do something. I have to do something because mentally I'm not in a great place. Physically, I'm not in a great place. So I knew I needed something. But um, it's interesting the scale is only one aspect of how you should be measuring yourself. A scale gives a very limited understanding of where your body actually is. But that's how everybody starts and that's how everybody measures themselves. And there's so many more data points that you should be using to measure yourself that's where I actually had to take a step back and start with some of those other data points.
Wow. Cool. That's exciting. So, I know during this process you reached out and got a coach. Tell us a little bit about that experience, like um, why it was important for you to go get a coach and going through that process.
Yeah, so there's so many talking heads out there. There's so many places online, on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever platform you're on, that will tell you what you should do. They have these 20-second episodes that give you information that they feel like what's worked for them. And a lot of times that will inspire people to get started. But I really needed a coach to guide me through the process. What I was looking for is I was looking for somebody who had done this before, who said, this is how I have successfully done this, and here's the system for how I can do it. I also needed somebody to hold me accountable. So I talked to another member of the Elevation Association. A shout out to Sydney and Nate Bemis out there in Texas, because she introduced me to her coach, and her it's a husband wife team, Jeremiah and Kat. And Jeremiah was a 2 or 3 time national bodybuilding champion for Canada. And sitting down with him and talking with him, it was pretty obvious that he knew what he was doing and that he had done this before and that he was willing to guide me through the process. um, because I tried several times on my own. I think we all have. And you can. There are some people who can do it. Some people who can discipline themselves and can follow whatever regimen they can. It just wasn't me. Like I really needed somebody to be like every week. How you doing? Send me a follow up. Check in with me. Be accountable. Knowing that I had that accountability partner really kept me on track for the show.
Awesome. That's awesome. So just wanted to go back a little bit like on the data points and the weight stuff. So what were some of the other metrics that, once you got your coach, like that you started to look at outside of like the scale, like to establish like that baseline for you?
Yeah, so one of the important data points, or a key performance indicator, if you will, for bodybuilding is percentage of body fat and also lean muscle mass. And so I took what's called a DEXA scan. And how a DEXA scan works, it's you lay down and it's basically almost like a little MRI, if you will, and it will give you your lean muscle mass, it'll give you your body fat percentage, it will give you your bone density, it'll give you your RMR, which is your resting metabolic rate, And I did that, the DEXA scan, plus I took a blood panel test to see where those markers were as well. What the DEXA scan will give you is an opportunity to say, okay, I have X percentage of body fat. When I started, I was at 21, almost 21% body fat. And I knew that bodybuilders, generally speaking, compete at 7, 8, 9% body fat, somewhere around there. Male bodybuilders, females are a little higher. But I needed to know that to be able to say, okay, this is the plan now for how I decrease that body fat. That's one thing. That's one key performance indicator for bodybuilding is percentage of body fat because you can have all the muscle in the world, but if you're sitting at 14, 15% body fat, you're just not going to show it, which is what the point of a competition is. So that was one key performance indicator that I used. The other big one was the lean muscle mass. Because I knew I was going to go on this journey, and my coach explained to me that you're going to go on this journey and you're going to be dropping weight in order to decrease your lean muscle mass, or in order to decrease your percentage body fat, you need to drop weight, but you don't want to be losing your lean muscle mass. So I had to take scans periodically throughout my competition prep in order to make sure that I was maintaining or trying to increase my lean muscle mass. I didn't know what that was going to look like, how my body was going to respond. And we had to make a lot of corrections and adjustments as we went along too with my diet, my exercise. The plan, had to be tweaked here and there because my body reacted a little bit differently to what other people's body would react. So that's another reason why you have a coach to overlook all of your stuff on a weekly basis or a monthly basis to be able to review that with you and say, okay, here are the tweaks that we need to make based upon what the data is showing us.
So, how much is it like a DEXA scan? Like, is it an
Oh,
expensive process or
$50.
50 bucks?
For me, it
Oh,
was anyways.
yeah.
It wasn't very expensive. The
Oh,
coach, the coach is a few $100, 300 or $400 a month, somewhere around there. And it's a very, I mean, I would pay more to have that fitness coach. I mean, it's
all right.
because what he does too is he will help me create my workout routines. He provides a lot of value, even though as far as face-to-face talking or interaction, it's not that often. I mean, he lives in Texas. I mean, we don't work out together. He doesn't come here. He's never been here to work out with me. But we get everything we need to do done over Zoom or just via communication via email.
Well, how often would you meet with Jeremiah, and what did that look like? Like, what did you guys cover? What were you required to, submit, or how would he be able to track your progress from Texas?
So he has an app, a workout app where he downloads all of my workouts. And so after I finish a workout on each set, I check off that I did that set, and then after I did the super set, I would check off the set. And then at the end of the workout, it would record my workout. Oh, you worked out for an hour and 5 minutes. How was it? Ask you, was it easy? Was it moderate? Was it challenging? Was it too hard? And then I would just say it's moderate or challenging or whatever it is. And then at the end of the day, he would just give me a high five. Good job. You did. I'm looking at your data. I'm seeing, acknowledging that you did this workout. Great. And then on a weekly basis, he would send me, or he has on the same app a check-in. So ask me a series of questions. How are you feeling? Are you having any injuries? How are you doing sticking with your meal plan? Um, how are you doing with your recovery? How are you doing with your mental health? How are you doing? How are you dealing with stress? A series of questions, and then I would upload photos of my progress. So I'd have to take, progress photos weekly and he would review that. And as long as I was on track, he would just give me a good job, you're on track, let's keep going. But if there was any questions or if there was ever any issues, he would say, hey, let's hop on a Zoom call and let's discuss this. And so we would do that. Initially, we did that maybe once or twice a month, maybe initially. And then once we got into routine, it was maybe once a month. Actually, initially it was weekly. We would get on a call, and then after that, it would taper down to about a once a month or so. We would get on a Zoom meeting and chat about the progress. I would also have to send pictures of my meals initially. So this is what my meal looks like. And the meals are programmed to down to the gram. You would have, X amount of grams of eggs and or bacon or chicken or sweet potatoes, a lot of sweet potatoes and vegetables. And then I would take pictures of it just to make sure that we were on the same page as far as what I was eating was right. I was preparing it correctly. I was eating the correct amounts and portions and so forth. So
So having that accountability partner made a huge difference with you sticking to it, right?
oh,
Being
absolutely. So yeah, so I mean, otherwise we all have the same thing. The 9 o'clock munchies roll around, whatever it is, and you somehow meander into the pantry that you weren't planning on going into. You grab that little handful of chips, or for me it was Oreos or whatever it was. But knowing that I was going to have to meet with my accountability partner, like that really helped me. I remember the first time after the first week or so week, I remember sending the report back in saying, "Hey, it was a perfect week this week. Like I did everything exactly like I should." And then after a couple weeks, that was a report every single week. And I don't think of all the times I had tried to get into shape, whether it be doing keto or whatever it may have been that I tried, I had never had a perfect week per se. I would have great 5 days or 6 days, but to have not only just one perfect week, but now several perfect weeks in a row, and then a couple perfect months in a row, it just built on itself. It was pretty powerful.
So you talked a little bit about some of the systems that he helped put in place, like, the app and the workouts, the food. Like, get a little more granular on that. What did that look like for you? I mean, um, like how much time were you putting in every day? What were your workouts like? And then on the food side, like what did that look like for you?
Well, the one thing that I took from this, and I'm going to get into this, is that you can't outperform your habits. So you really need to have these systems put into place in order to keep yourself honest and on track. So the workouts go, the workouts, I would work out for about an hour every morning, maybe a little bit over an hour doing workouts. And then I would sometimes I put in 20 minutes of cardio a day. Towards the end, it got it closer to 30 minutes to an hour maybe, but at the beginning, it was literally 20 minutes of cardio, and it was 5 days a week. It was Monday through Friday. I took Saturday and Sunday off. Those were my rest days. And it was when I first got the meal plan, it said you'll have X amount of grams of eggs, X amount of grams of whatever, like I described before. And I remember looking at the meal plan for the first time, thinking, okay, I can, this is a good. I'm excited about this week. This is a good week. And I remember finishing that first week, and then meeting with Jeremiah and Kat again and saying, "All right, when do you send out the meal plan for the next week?" And there was a pause, and them saying, are you a guy who likes variety?" And I was like, yes, I don't even like leftovers, but I've had the same thing every week this week, every day this week, and it's been good. And they said, okay, good, because that's your meal plan for the next 8 months. And I was shocked. I was like, are you telling me that I'm gonna have the same breakfast, the same snack, the same lunch, the same snack, the same dinner every single day for the next 8 months? And they're like, yeah, yeah, it's called consistency. Your body gets used to using it. It understands how to start to use all the macros, all the protein, the carbs, the fats, and your body will become a machine to where now it will become incredibly efficient and optimized. And I said, well, can't we just like switch up I mean, it doesn't matter, like macros are macros, right? If I have a certain types of protein, can I switch up the proteins? And they're like, you can, but your body gets used to using a certain type of protein in a certain way. So it was a very eye-opening model for me. I had never considered doing that, and frankly, I thought it was going to be really hard. That was the workouts I could do all day. I had been working out all the time, but I was like, I don't know if I can do this. It was October. We were heading into all of the holiday season, heading into Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. you know. And so I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do that. But, Thanksgiving, they're like, look, it's Thanksgiving, have a plate. I thought I'm going to take a day off, right? And they're like, not a day. Get up and have your normal breakfast. Don't starve yourself so you can gorge yourself at Thanksgiving dinner. Have your normal breakfast. And then when it comes around Thanksgiving time, have a plate. Get the turkey, get the gravy, get the stuffing, get the pie, whatever, and then be done. And then have your regular dinner at nighttime and then move on and start over. And that was very empowering as well. Like, okay, just because I have one meal, maybe this I don't need to like blow the entire day or the week or the weekend just I can get back on track and have it not be that big of a factor for me. So that was pretty powerful. And as far as the workouts go, it was Monday was it was very regular. Like I didn't change my workout at all in the whole. Well, I made a few adjustments or changes in 8 months, but not very much. Meaning we had a few tweaks because of some strain on my elbow, but other than that, it was basically Monday was a certain body part, and then Tuesday was different, Wednesday was different, Thursday was different, Friday was different as well. What was interesting, Ryan, about this is the goal of a bodybuilder, there's different categories within bodybuilding. So you can't just say, I'm going to train like a bodybuilder because there's a classic, and then there's a couple other categories, and then my category, which was men's physique. So I had to train for a certain body style, which means the men's physique is a very athletic body build type, which means you have kind of a wide shoulder that tapers down to your waist. You have these lats, but you don't have necessarily these bulging muscles, and you don't have these huge legs. You don't miss leg day by any means. You have good legs, but it's different than like a classic bodybuilding physique where you really try and just put on mass muscle. So I really had to see the vision of what I was trying to accomplish. It's just like, I know we're gonna make correlations to dental practice, but I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit earlier. It's just like about your practice. Like you can't say I'm gonna build a thriving practice. That's different for everybody. Like you have to define what that looks like. You have to see what that looks like in order to be able to then now cater your preparation to achieving that final goal.
It's awesome. Awesome. So I love the word you said in there, consistency too. Like that's such a key component of this, right? Because it's like every day being the same. It was a meal plan, not a meals plan. It was like one meal, right? So
Yeah, that was the hardest
fantastic.
ever.
So you said you had a little bit of like elbow issues. Like, did you ever hit any plateaus or kind of obstacles during this process? And if so, how did you get over those and move on?
Yeah, you're gonna hit obstacles and plateaus. You're gonna hit times when you're like, am I really doing this? Do I really have like 3 months left? Um, there was a while, my Instagram feed for a while was bodybuilders and desserts. Like that's it. Like, your Instagram feed shows you what you look at, and those were the two things on my feed. Because there are times when you really want to stop. A lot of me think this is good enough. Like I feel really good. I look better than I've ever looked. Um, but you can't stop. Like if you have a vision, you're going to hit these plateaus that are going to want to cause you to slow down or stop or feel like you're good enough. But if you've got a defined vision and you have a coach and you have a support team around you, my wife was very supportive of what I was doing. They're going to help you. Your team, your collaboration team is going to help you push through those plateaus. They're going to remind you, hey, you've put 5 months into this already. Like you're on a roll. You don't let's do something to distract you so you don't quit or you don't stop. Like remember the end goal in mind. I had one thing that helped me was on my mirror in the morning. I had my days to my countdown. I remember when it got down to less than 100 days, I thought, oh wow, we're 3.5 months
Right?
out, getting there. and then it gets down to 60 days and then 30 days and then all of a sudden you start to panic. It's so funny because then you're like, oh man, I only have 30 more days to prepare for
Yep.
this.
Mhm.
30 days? Like being consistent, whoever, if you're not in a competition, being absolutely consistent and working your tail off for 30 days is almost unheard of. But when you're doing this for 8 months, like I only have 30 days left, it's a mind shift. It's a different game.
That's awesome. So how did it feel like as you got down to that point? How did it feel like get on stage and do the competition? What did that moment feel like to you? Like
It
the
was it was a little
culmination,
it was a little surreal. Like I don't know, you're the it's such a weird it's such a weird experience because you wax or shave and then you get all tan and you spend a couple days before like standing in front of a fan blow drying your tan and you get these custom shorts and it's you get a uniform and then you're looking at your body like this is like I can't believe I'm here. This is unbelievable. Like I knew that this was my vision, but I've worked so hard for this. And to get up on stage, it didn't matter to me at that point in time. And everyone's got a different goal, but it didn't matter to me what place I got. I was like, I'm on stage. Like I'm 40 at that point in time. I was 46 years old, 47 now. Yeah, I was 46 on stage, just like showing off my physique with I was in a couple different categories. One of them was just an open novice category. So I was in on stage with 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds and I was definitely one of the older, if not the oldest guy on stage in that category. And but it didn't matter to me. It was such a defining moment maybe in my life. Like I can do this thing. Like if I can do this, if I can get on stage, take my shirt off and have somebody judge my physique, I can do anything. There's nothing harder than somebody telling you, you've worked your butt off for 8 months, but you're a little deficient here, you're a little deficient there, and it's like that's awesome. And I took that feedback and I rolled with it. But it was a really the moment for me is one that will stand out in my memory forever. A top experience that I've had in my lifetime that so few people get the chance to do because it's hard, very
yeah.
hard.
Yeah, I mean, we got to watch you go through that whole process, and again, it was great to see how disciplined you were with your workouts and your food, and chicken and sweet potatoes every day, consistently. And it was great. It was fantastic from our perspective to sit back and watch you go through the process, put in the time and the work to and get the results. But it's a crazy process because it's having consistently good days over time, and it's little things, right? It wasn't like you transformed in a week, or it took 8 months to get to that point, and no, it's fantastic to watch and see you go through that process. So now let's switch a little bit and see like what lessons did you learn from that bodybuilding and transformation, that physical transformation for you that changed your views on leadership and practice growth, and how does that apply to you as a leader, an entrepreneur, a business owner? Like what lessons did you see in that process?
That's a great question. That the correlation between this is so fun to draw because there's so many direct correlations between the two. So the first one I would say is I am in charge of my future. Like I can sit and complain about how I feel. I can sit and complain about how I was in poor health, how my back hurt. And I could use excuses like, oh, but I work out almost every day or at least 3 times a week, but my back hurts, I'm in a bad headspace. I had to make a decision, say, look, there are people out there who are thriving, and I need to know what that looks like, how they got there, and I need to decide if that's where I want to be or not. So I had to first of all I had to set the vision for myself. I actually looked online I created a Pinterest board, which it sounds I'm embarrassed to admit maybe that, but I did. But I had to find a guy who kind of looked like me, who was more or less my age, who did a bodybuilding competition. And I had to visualize that in my mind. I say, okay, in 8 months, this is what I want to be. This is what I want to look like. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to feel. I had to see it, and I had to set the vision for myself first. And then once I had to do that, and then once I had that vision, I had to have my team on board, my wife specifically, my friends, you and Dan. Had to have you guys on board to be like, this is what I'm hoping to accomplish. I need some help and support in this. These are my non-negotiables, aka my diet, my exercise. I don't want to sacrifice or compromise our relationships, meaning I'm still going to work my regular hours. I'm still going to focus on putting in time and effort into the businesses, that we have and run. But here's what my life is going to look like for the next 8 months, and to set that vision, and then to have everybody helping me out was incredibly valuable. I had to say, look, we're not gonna I'm not gonna go out for lunch, right? Like, we're gonna have team lunches, and just don't ask me what I want to order because I brought my lunch, and I don't want to be like, oh, just today I'll just get the taco or the burrito or whatever that everybody's getting, right? And my team around me, you guys, Marin, were very, very supportive of that and helping me with that. When somebody would bring in, a box of crumble cookies, you guys graciously ate them all before.
We don't quit, right? We
Yeah,
don't,
you guys are, that's right. We don't
we
quit.
don't cheat. We don't cheat. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that was one of the biggest part of leadership is being able to see the vision, define the vision, and then surrounding myself with the team and having everybody rowing in the same direction was a huge part of leadership in this aspect. And the same thing with your dental practice. I think it's the exact same thing. Like, you have to find the vision. You have to be able to decide what you want your practice to look like, how you want it to run, manage, function, what the end goal, what does that actually look like for you in whatever your time frame you want, a year, 3 years, 10 years, and then start to work your way backwards on that.
Right. I think that the correlation there is so important between the same thing like the physical transformation and the practice transformation, right? Really having a defined vision of what you're working towards. So when you show up every day, you know why you're showing up, what you're working on, what are the rules by which I play, right? Like what are we trying to accomplish every day? Otherwise, it's kind of like the mindless eating and stuff. You just kind of show up and go to work, right? You just kind of uh, one day leads into the next day, unless you have that vision of really, where you're trying to focus. So I think that's one of the reasons, that's one of the first things we try to do with the dentist when we start working with them is like, what is your vision for your practice, for your life? Where do you want to be 10 years from now? So,
Yeah,
so it's
and that
really,
was
you know,
what was that for me as a dentist, that was really difficult because I didn't know. Like, it wasn't until I was talking with other dentists regarding what they have done, what their practices are doing, because there are several different roads or directions you can take with your practice. And it wasn't until I could see somebody else doing what I wanted to do, then I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. Like, that to me feels right for what I should be doing for my practice. That's the direction that I want to go. And it was the same thing with bodybuilding. Like, I never really had the vision. Like, I knew I wanted to get in shape. Okay, I want to have a good practice, right? That doesn't really mean anything, really. I mean, you want to be successful. That doesn't really mean anything. You really have to say, okay, in 10 years, my practice is going to look like this. It's going to have, I'm going to have 9 operatories. I'm going to have 2 doctors. We're going to, this is our BHAG. Really, it's a big, hairy, audacious goal. You want to talk about a BHAG? Uh, Stepping on stage at a bodybuilding show is a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal that really seemed so far out of reach. This seemed almost undoable at first. And I think, but that is a potential, and you should look at the same thing with your practice. Like, what is your BHAG? What do you want to achieve?
You said one of the important things in your journey to accomplish your vision was really getting a solid baseline of where you're starting from. So if I'm a practice owner and I've got my vision defined, how do I, assess my baseline? What are some of the tools that Elevation Association uses to help establish baseline for a doc?
Yeah, you need data points. You need good data points, and you need to define which of those data points are the most important for your areas of growth. Those are called KPIs, key performance indicators. So you have a software system. You probably use EcoSoft or Dentrix or Open Dental or Curve or whatever it may be that will has the potential in it to find hundreds and hundreds of data points. You may or may not have an outside software system like Dental Intel or Practice by Numbers or something that will pull all of that information and give it to you in a beautiful little dashboard so you can see that. What you need then at that point in time is say, okay, for my BHAG, for my growth, for where I want to get to, whatever that is, whether it's growth or not. We've talked about this in the past that growth for the sake of growth's sake is not good. That's the ideology of a cancer cell. Don't just grow just to grow. Make sure you have an intentional purpose for growth. And so the tool, I'm going to come back to that concept, but the tools that you use for that are identifying which key performance indicators are going to be most important to measure on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis. Meaning, should I be looking at my annual patient value? Should I be looking at my hygiene reappointment rate? Should I be looking at whatever the other KPIs are that you need to be measuring? What are they? What should they be? How often should you be looking at them? And then what changes do you need to make based upon what the information or the data is telling you? That's the best place to start with that is like for me getting a DEXA scan, me getting a blood panel. Same thing for you is to get like a growth report. So just get a baseline analysis. You know, Dental Intel will we can help you pull a growth report through Dental Intel, and that will give you the top 14 generic KPIs. So they may not be specific to your situation, but they're just general good KPIs you need to look at. And from there, you can make assessments on where you stand and then what growth and areas you need to make. So that's a great place to start.
I love that correlation. I kind of go back to what you were saying about like the scale is just one metric that's not a very good metric when you're trying to judge your overall health. And I think like in dental practices, it's that production and collections kind
Yeah.
of scale, right? Like a lot of people are looking at that one metric, but there's so many more things that you need to be looking at in the practice, just like in your health, your body fat, your muscle mass, your blood markers, what are those things in the practice? And you're right, it's getting underneath and really looking at those key performance indicators and where am I currently sitting? Where am I unhealthy? Like and what do I need to tweak, right? So that's fantastic.
Yeah, because if you think about it, 210 pounds, it tells you that there's 210 pounds of something sitting on a piece of plastic. That's it. That's all that it tells you.
That's all it is, right? Yeah.
You can have a 210-pound man who has 30% body fat and versus a 210-pound man that has a 9% body fat. And those two are going to look very different. They're going to function very different. The health is going to be very different from those two people. So it really is just it's like you said, it's like looking at a production collection number or looking like at a new patient number. Okay, we get 30 new patients. Great. Well, you lose 50. I'm sorry, that's a negative 20 growth. That is a KPI that you need to, that's very generic, the new patients. So it's not one you should ignore, but it's just there's so much more involved in it that you need to dig deeper into it.
Awesome. So talk about the importance of coaching in both areas. What's the difference between trying to grow your practice by yourself versus trying to grow with a leadership system and a community that supports you?
Yeah, as people in just in general, we all have blind spots. We all have areas and deficiencies that we can't see on our own. And that's why I think everybody needs a coach of some sort. For whatever journey you're going to go on, you need to have somebody who will be honest with you and say, "Hey, look, you know what? We need to develop your shoulders a little bit more." Or, "Hey, your lats when you pose, your lats just don't flare like they should." When in actual, I'm looking at the mirror going, "I think they look pretty good."
You look great. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, at first when I first started, I was like, how do I flex my lats? I need to flex. I didn't even know I needed to do that. And then I remember you and I
Yeah.
sitting down, and I'm like, Ryan, how do I flex my lats? And you flexed your lats, and then you cramped up, and we're like, oh, this is how you do this is how you do it. And so you need somebody to say, if you're gonna get on stage, these are the things you need to do. Where I was like, but I can bench. I think I at the time I was like, I could bench like 315 pounds. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, that's cool. That's something you can tell people, but
Not what you're gonna do on stage.
it has nothing to do with what you're going to do on stage. So like, we have these biases as far as, oh, but I've got a really great new patient average. That's great. That means nothing for your final goal, or maybe it does, but you need a coach to be like, okay, look, this is your final goal. I've worked with hundreds of practices. These are the specific KPIs that you need to measure on a weekly basis. This is how you do this with your team. This is how you sit down with your hygiene team. And this is how you measure those KPIs. And then your coach says, and these KPIs, these are awesome, but you only need to look at these once a month. Like, you don't need to spend a ton of time going over these. We tweak these periodically here and there. And then your coach says, annually we'll look at this number just to make sure we're okay, but it's really not that important. Whereas as an individual provider practitioner, we may not know that. We may not understand exactly how to analyze the data and then how to make changes or implement changes based upon what the data is telling us, which is the importance of having a coach and having, somebody like you, Brian, who will sit down on a weekly basis. You'll pull up a side by side. This is where we were last year. This is where we are this year. And a lot of times you'll get the question, why are we doing this? Like, I don't even know why we're comparing these two. When a coach can sit down and say, here's the value for doing this. And then a light bulb goes off and you understand the value of having that coach.
I think there's just so many great correlations between your health journey and the importance of having that accountability partner and a coach to kind of help you along that process and a supportive community, right? Like your wife, your family, your friends, like helping you get there. And I think it's the same thing with the dental practice, having that support of a coaching or a group that helps you um, make progress towards your goals, right? An expert guide and then a supportive community that helps you get there. And that's really what Elevation Association is all about, right? Is providing some of that guidance and coaching and a community that supports you as you're trying to reach those goals, whatever they are, right? Whatever class you're competing in,
Yeah.
those kind of things, right?
Yeah. Your vision, a lot of times in a lot of the dental practice owners are visionaries. So a lot of times we have these visions, but vision without execution is hallucination, right? So
Love that. Yeah.
we really need somebody to help us execute the vision. And a lot of times we rely on an office manager or a team member who doesn't have the skill set. As amazing as they are, they really just don't have the skill set to help you execute that vision. When you're when you have these KPIs as I'm bodybuilding, I've got these key performance indicators of how am I doing 2 months in, 3 months in, 4 months in. Your practice is sending you these KPIs that you're checking. Well, what's interesting is your body and your business both respond to what you track. Meaning, if you don't track things, you're not going to respond. Like, you can check things periodically, but your business is going to respond to what you're tracking, and you're going to make changes and you're going to implement systems or protocols or changes in whatever aspect of your dentist, your business you need change in, but it's going to respond because of what you're tracking, not because of what you're avoiding to track, right?
Oh,
So,
that's awesome. I love that. Love those vision without execution hallucination. That's fantastic. So what are the daily like macros and reps, you know? What are the daily things that a practice does to meet that clear vision? You know, you have that vision now where you want to go. What does the day-to-day look like? The workouts, the eating routine, like what's the correlation there with the dental practice? What's my daily routine look like?
so if I'm a dentist, and regardless of what my goal is, I need to have a system for tracking my KPIs and measuring my KPIs, and I need to hold myself and my team accountable for measuring those KPIs. Just like checking off the workout at the end of the workout, so my coach can give me a thumbs up. We have to do the same thing, and that means taking a little bit of time away from the actual sitting down physical dentistry in order to be able to make that happen. We've got a good friend of ours, Buck Drew, Dr. Buck Drew, retired dentist, who's taught us sometimes you have to slow down in order to speed up, and that's a really important principle that we've grasped onto. So we take time. We take a 2 hour block on Monday mornings, which sounds crazy for every dentist. Is like Monday morning. That's my ideal time to see
Be
emergency patients
patient,
on the
yeah.
weekend. To maybe some of my most productive time. Well, we know how valuable that time is, and I'm going to tell you, taking the 2 hours to set aside a time to meet with your team and review your KPIs from the week before is just as valuable for your practice, for the health of your practice. So we take 2 hours every morning. We meet with a hygiene team. We meet with our restorative team. We meet with our front office. Then we meet together as an office and whole, and we review KPIs. Everybody in our office has a number, something that they are reporting to the rest of the team on. They have, whether it's a production per visit or whether it's a number of bleach cases or whether it is Invisalign scans or whatever that number is. Everybody has something that they're contributing to in order to achieve whatever our goal is for that quarter. As a dentist, you should live in quarterly worlds. Here's how your life should break down: 10-year, 3-year, 10-year plan, 3-year plan, 1-year plan, and then quarterly plans. And then those quarterly plans should be 3 months of all in intense focus on whatever that one or two things each person should be focusing on. And that one quarter should guide you towards your 1 year plan as far as what you're hoping to achieve in that 1 year. So the reps of running a healthy practice are the weekly team meetings, reviewing the vision, you know, marking off the number. Hey, we're a day closer to our goal. This is not just our weight, but this is our body mass. This is our percentage body fat at this time. This is our lean muscle mass. These are our blood markers. You measure those on a weekly basis in order to assess your health and then make changes or adjustments that are necessary.
I think it's that goes back to that discipline, right? Like every day is a little bit more disciplined. You're not missing x-rays, you're not missing perio diagnosis, you're not missing reappointments. It's again that accountability at the end of the week, but every day it's like, we're not letting those things slip by or going undone. Like sometimes, you just it's being disciplined in those daily actions at the practice because, you know, 4 good days in a row is a great week. 4 good weeks is a great month. 3 good months a great quarter. And so it's just, all comes back down to those daily reps and macros, right? Or am I hitting those every day? And yeah, are you taking time to review that with your team, morning huddles, weekly meetings, those kind of things? Are we on track? Are we gonna hit that? Or are we gonna get on stage and look like that one guy that should not have gotten on stage, right? Like that's the thing. So
Yeah, it's these weekly accountability meetings. They're just like if you were to have a handful of chips during the week. Guess what? That's going to show up in the weekly meeting, right? That's going to come back and you're going to have to report on that. And you're going to say, oh man, yeah, I should have done this. And do you know what that does? That eliminates that. So when they come back and they report and they say, oh, I didn't reschedule this person and this person. They're reporting to the entire team as far as why that didn't happen. I'm telling you, that only happens once or twice, and then they don't want to do that. They don't want to report to the team of um, why they keep not reappointing or why they keep not doing fluoride or whatever it is, why they keep missing the X-rays, and it starts to happen, and they feel better about themselves because they all of a sudden you have set the expectation for what they're supposed to be doing, and when they can report back and they can say, "Hey, I was 100% on point this week. I didn't miss a thing." That feels good. It feels good in your health journey. It feels good to be able to say, I killed it this week. I did so good. Just to report back to my coach and say that, it just made me feel good as a person. He didn't pay me extra money to do that. My coach didn't. There was no other benefit other than I did this. You know, I'm contributing to this journey. This is where I'm at.
Had the perfect week, coach, yeah. The
Perfect
same
week.
way with the girls on Monday, right? Yeah,
Yep.
that's great. So how has your identity changed because of this experience, both professionally and personal?
You know, as far as my identity goes, like I said before, if you can get on stage and take your shirt off and have somebody judge you, you can put up with anything. You can put up with any sort of criticism because you have a goal in mind. You know where you came from and you know where you're going. This allowed me as far as my personal identity to realize one, what makes me happy, you know, what I can do in life. And then also as a leader, it helps me understand the importance of a vision, of getting everybody on board with this vision and being able to communicate clearly what this vision is and what this entails. And then surround myself with the people who want to be a part of this journey, and then help them see the value for them in this journey as well.
I
You
think
know,
it's cool. I mean, you can actually say I'm a bodybuilder, right? Which is actually like a new change in the identity, right? Like you can having accomplished what you accomplished, gone on stage, done that, like you've become something in the process, right? You're now something that you weren't before. You're a bodybuilder, right? Which is, I think, pretty cool. Like through the discipline, through the experience, you've actually, somewhat changed your identity, and I see that when we go to events and stuff, like people notice you're a disciplined person because you can't fake, you know, you can't fake the physical discipline. I think that's pretty noticeable. So, I think I'm proud of you that what you've gone through and done, and to be able to see you do that was fantastic. And again, it changes who you have become in the process. So if you were to talk to a doc or an individual who's feeling stuck, whether it's in their physical life or their profession, like what would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
I would say first of all, reach out to us, reach out to me. I'm happy to have any conversations. You know, we were in Arizona last week, and we were talking, you know, in one of our base camp. Just it's a fun weekend we have with you know, 7 or 8 or 10 doctors, and we do something awesome. But we were in there, we had some just awesome conversations with people, and there's no commitment, right? You don't have to commit to doing anything, but we're happy to talk people through this. If you feel stuck, the worst thing you can do is to clam up, or you worst thing you can do is to retreat farther back into your shell, right? If you're feeling stuck, either physically or professionally, reach out to somebody who you think may be willing to listen and help talk you through this. Part of this podcast, I hopefully you've understood that I'm happy to be absolutely open and willing and vulnerable with all of my information. I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm happy to share any of my information. I don't hold. I used to be, maybe, I don't know if it was embarrassed or shy or whatever, but I used to, you know what it was? I didn't talk my numbers very much because I didn't know or understand my numbers, and I didn't want to look embarrassed or ashamed in front of people. So I didn't say anything. But if you feel stuck, physically or professionally, please reach out, talk to us. You can go to elevationassociation.com. you can just contact us and reach out to us, and we're happy to have a conversation with you.
Awesome. And I think sometimes, sometimes even if you're stuck professionally and physically, like changing the physical can sometimes have a big effect on the professional, right? Like
Yeah.
getting getting your body moving, those kind of things can have a big effect on that. So
Oh man, you get so many endorphins released, and your mind shift changes. It's a paradigm shift within your mind as far as what you can do in your business because of what you have accomplished physically. It does. It gives you it empowers you really to be able to do more and accomplish more.
awesome. At Elevation Association, our leadership framework is is all about the journey, right? It's all about like casting that vision, establishing a baseline, and then moving towards that journey. So now that you've reached the pinnacle, you're on that peak, you accomplished all that you wanted to accomplish with um, your body transformation and the difficulty in that journey. Was it worth it? I guess is my question. You know,
So 100% worth it. No question. I would go back and do it again no matter what. And it's interesting. The minute I got off stage, I was like, huh, I could maybe improve this or improve that. And I wasn't sure if I was going to continue on this journey with the bodybuilding competition or not, or if I was just going to say, I'm just going to kind of fade off into the sunset and just, live a healthy lifestyle. But I started to work out again, and I reached back out to my coach and said, hey, you know what? I think I can do a little bit better. I think I'd like to try again and go back on stage. So I actually trained again for the next 5 months. Was it 5 or 6 months or so? And then I competed again in November. And what I did is I took my markers. I did another evaluation of where I was at, and another growth report, if you will, for me physically, and said, okay, now that I know where I'm at, and I'm at a different baseline than what I was 8 months ago. And from here, what can I realistically accomplish? And my goals were different. I was already at the weight I wanted to be. Like it wasn't about dropping pounds now for fat at this point in time. Now it was all about muscle growth. So the markers changed. The end goal was still similar, the same, but I had made a bunch of changes now that I had to focus on different KPIs and I had to focus on different markers. And I ended up putting on about 10 pounds of lean muscle mass. And so it's this lifelong experience because you get to a point and you love it. And now you're like, okay, now I'm here. I'm going to reassess. It's just like in your practice. You get a year of really solid, good work in your practice, and your practice changes, and you say, okay, now where am I at? Because I'm not in the same place I was a year ago. Let me reassess. Let me get another growth report. Let me do an annual meeting so now I can see maybe I need to pivot or maybe I need to focus on some other factors, whatever that is. But it's totally worth it, and it'll totally change your life, the way you think about things.
awesome. So once you summit that peak, it's then on to the next, right?
On to
So
the next,
on to
right?
the next, which is great. So just is there any question or anything that's been on your mind throughout this conversation that you wanted to share that I haven't asked you or talked to you about?
No, I just think that just to reinforce the concept of discipline, it's all about being consistent. It really is. And I throughout the journey, I've told people this. They've asked me, maybe what's the hardest poem or what would you learn? And I said, the biggest takeaway from this physical transformation, this body transformation, this journey, this health journey into bodybuilding is that discipline really is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. And you have to decide, you have to be able to see that, then you have to be able to cross that bridge of discipline in order to be able to get there. Because if you don't have the discipline, you're always going to get stuck. You're going to fall off. You're going to have to start over again. And for me, the discipline was my meal plan. I was working out. on a regular basis. And that to me wasn't that difficult to do. As a matter of fact, I enjoyed it. For me, it was being disciplined to stay on my meal plan 100%. And that was difficult. It was hard at first. But once I started to understand and feel how my body would start to use those macros, it was a game changer. The same thing in my practice. Like I knew I wanted to get to a certain direction in my practice, but I had to get the discipline to have the meetings on a weekly basis, to hold my team accountable, myself and my team accountable for our numbers, to be able to review the KPIs on a consistent basis, have the discipline to do that, to slow down in order to speed up was the only way to get my practice from where I was to actually what I wanted it to become.
That's awesome. So many correlations between the two transformative journeys, right? And I think, you know, the physical mirrors the professional there the same way, and just so many good takeaways from your journey. And I think it's been so relatable to a lot of the dentists that we talk to. And so I'm super proud of your transformation, what you've done there, and then the correlations between, you getting a vision, establishing a baseline, getting a coach, and being disciplined. It's, so similar to what we do with docs working at their dental practice. We help them get that vision, establish a baseline, and help them along the journey to whatever goal they might have for their life. So I think it's been fantastic. Any final thoughts for you or?
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. Appreciate the interview, the thoughtful questions and the correlations. Looking forward to it. If anybody wants, like I said, go to elevationassociation.com. We've got a community. It's called School, SKOOL. And it's an opportunity where it's kind of like our private Facebook group, but it has more. It has opportunities to get some continuing education. If you're ready to kind of stop dabbling and start transforming, this is your tribe. We're the ones that are going to help you do that. We can help you both physically and with your practice transform. We'd love to do that. Let us know. We'll get you hooked up into that school community, and we can start communicating that way.
Awesome. All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you. See you guys.